Each morning, real setups are broken down with entry strategies and technical reasoning behind every trade. This is today's best trade setups with Verified Investing.
Welcome to today's best trade setups. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing. The S&P 500 and the QQQ are trading lower today. U.S. oil is trading higher. We have silver that's dropping today as well. We have a lot of charts to go over. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first chart that I like to go over is ORCL. So here's a chart of Oracle. Got this down sloping trend line, connects the highs from the 16th of October 2025. Here's that secondary hit. I've connected those two pivots and drawn this trend line. As you can see, this has hit the third time, fourth time, finally broke above it, but didn't confirm. So for me today, I'm looking at going long on ORCL at 136.48. This is a gap in the charts that is going to be solid support on a technical basis. So that's where I'm looking to go long. This is still a chart that I really like for a swing trade. So what I would be looking to do is if we can break back above and confirm, then I would look to short it at 156.54 for a day trade. But then I'm looking at a potential move to the upside of at least $172 on the chart of ORCL. LITE, I did mention a couple different levels yesterday on this chart. And I said we could get about a 7% pullback. I would be looking for a pretty significant drop in this chart. It got as high as $765.79. It's slightly pierced that. And then all of a sudden, it got all the way down to $714. Not quite 7%, but from the highs, it was a 6.5% drop. Great opportunity. If you guys were able to take advantage of that, congratulations. It did end up closing higher at $783.47. And that is actually my shortable level today. If we do a Fibonacci retracement, I'm going to take the top pivot point right here because we're trading lower and take it all the way down to this low pivot. For those of you who are a little bit more aggressive, you would start a trade at $768.43. That is your first level of resistance. And then you've got double top right here at $783. For those of you who are looking to go long on LITE, it got as low as $710, actually $708.70, somewhere in that area. Here's a gap in the charts that I would be looking at going long today for a day trade at $7.01 and 701.18. Excuse me. All right. I'm also eyeing this upsloping trend line. Connects this pivot low from the 5th of February 2026. Secondary hit. This would be a third hit if we can drop below this gap in the charts as additional support on the chart of LITE. So again, first level of support, 701.18, the gap in the charts. Knowing I can add all the way down to this upsloping trend line, could drop as much as $677.49 if you are an aggressive trader. Again, third hits of upsloping trend lines favor a move higher if we are trading it from the upper end of the trend line. The S&P 500 got down to $672.19. This is going to be your first level of support. For me, I'm looking at this gap in the charts sitting right here at $671.40. Now that we're below this support level, I'd mentioned several different times that the more often a price action hits on a support level, the weaker it gets. And as you can see, it flushed through that. On the upside, the resistance level is going to be $676.57. So if you're aggressive, that is your first shortable level, knowing that if it gets above that on a 15-minute closing basis, you could stop out. I'm not that aggressive. I would actually have to wait until it gets up to this gap in the charts at $686.42. But I know some of you are a little bit more aggressive than me, and so you could take a short here at $676.57. Again, my long level is $671.40 on the chart of the SPY. QQQ have dropped significantly. I'm eyeing this level, this gap in the charts at $590.07. That is going to be your first level of support. And what I would look to do on the Qs is dollar cost average all the way down to $583.46. You've got this pretty solid pivot in the charts right here. And as you can see, price got rejected one time, got above it, and then it acted as support. So this is a trend I'm following. So that's why I like the first gap in the charts. But then my secondary support level is sitting at 583.46, and dollar cost averaging into that is how I would play this today. Nvidia had a nice sell-off in the pre-market, not quite taking out yesterday's lows. I'm still eyeing 171.88 for a long, and dollar cost averaging all the way down to this previous gap in the charts right here at $166.90. This is something I would dollar cost average every $1.70. And that's because it's a $171 stock, and that would be about a 1% drop all the way into 166.90. Norwegian Cruise Line holdings, I might have to restore some of these charts. First level of support yesterday I gave was $21.49. It is below that level now, so that level is off of the table. I would be looking at picking this up at $20.79. So again, this first level is off the table. So look at $20.79 if we can get a continued fall, not only in the markets, but also on NCLH. Silver, I was mentioning, I had a potential short level at 103.81. Not only is this this opening price of this green bar candle, it also would correlate with this high pivot point, or this retrace of the scene of the crime of this breakdown. But now we're having a nice sell-off. If price on silver can get down to $73.43, this is where I'm eyeing for a long play on SLV today. MongoDB had a pretty significant drop in the pre-markets. I've identified the low of the pre-market session from yesterday's earnings, $233.72. That is an aggressive level. For me, I would actually be waiting for a little bit lower of a drop. I would wait until it gets down to this high red bar candle right here at $227.60 for my first long level. For a swing trade, I would be looking at $214.34. So if you guys are aggressive, you could start here in dollar cost average every $3 to $4 lower on MongoDB, knowing that you've got this major gap on MDB at $214.34. Once you get a bounce on this chart, you should have a pretty sustained bounce. I would expect at least a 5 to 7% bounce, especially if we can get down to $214.34. ON got down as low as $39.99 in the pre-market. Not a significant bounce. What I've seen in the past on charts like this is when we fail to get bounces off of pre-market lows, price action gets to that level. Once it confirms below that level, you will get a continued sell-off in the markets, or at least in ON. And so that's what I would be looking at. This is your first support level, pre-market lows, $39.99. Once it closes below that on a 15-minute closing basis, watch out below. I would then look to pick ON up right here at this gap in the charts at $35.17. I know that is a significant drop down. That's another 11 to 12%. But sometimes that happens when you get these pre-market lows taken out. Then you have these waterfall effects, and it can really drive price continually lower. SE was another stock that we were monitoring. So here's what I like about SE. Had this nice sell-off. Broke the support right here on the back of earnings, $100.63. I was actually anticipating a bounce, but now we got as low as $85.01 on the chart of SE. So for me, that's going to be your first support level. I'm taking this at $83.70, knowing that if it closes below that on a 15-minute closing basis, I would stop out and then look to re-enter it at this high pivot point right here at $76.53. Those of you who are a little bit more aggressive and know how to dollar cost average, that could be an opportunity. Start at $83.70 and dollar cost average all the way down to $76.53. This is going to be a major support level. Not only you have this high pivot point from the highs of June 2024, but you've also got this pivot low right here that catapulted the stock price of SE quite considerably higher. So that's where my level is, $76.53. SanDisk is continuing to roll over. Not as big of a sell-off as I was anticipating. What I would look for a long play on SNDK is $541.64. On a 15-minute closing basis, I would stop out of this trade and look to pick this up at $481.43. Sometimes you get some selling pressure in a stock like SanDisk, and it can just continue to sell off, which is why I would look to stop out on a 15-minute closing basis below this little support. U.S. oil had decided to make this huge rally to the upside. It got as high as $94.45 in the pre-market. I've got a gap in the charts at $95.20. So I would actually look to start picking up a a short trade once it gets up to $94.54, knowing I've got this gap in the charts and $95.20. So look at USO for another push to the upside and take advantage of the pre-market high before this sell-off to around $92.45. And then somebody asked about FIGR. So I'm going to go ahead and go over this in the charts. What we are looking at is a chart that has no real market information. It's pretty new IPO from the 11th of September, 2025. So there's not a lot of price information. If you can get a bid above this red bar candle, which we failed to before at $30.77, then you're looking at your next resistance level at $33.63. Once you can break above that resistance level, you are going to have a nice move to the upside. You could head as high as $45.46 on the chart of FIGR. So thank you so much for joining me this morning at 8:45. Gareth Holloway is going to be going live in less than 4 minutes, talking about what's going on in the markets and all this volatility, which is really, as day traders, it's nice to see. So please make sure you're liking, following, subscribing, and sharing with those friends so that way they can get the same market information. And at 8:30, I'm going to be going live in the live day trading room. It would be fun to have you guys join us. So why don't you guys come on over and see what we're doing in the live day trading room. Our win rate's pretty high. You guys don't want to miss that. So we'll see you guys next time in the charts. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.